The clock at Willow Creek bus depot struck 11:50 p.m. Greg Ward stepped out of the guard shack, his breath visible in the cold night air. His heavy boots thudded on the concrete as he adjusted his navy jacket. At 42, he had patrolled this place for years. The midnight shift was his routine. Most nights, it was just him, the buses, and the stillness. Tonight, though, something felt off. Before we jump into this gripping tale, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Give us a like and subscribe for more stories that keep you on the edge. Greg's job was simple. Watch the depot, check the gates, help late travelers. The last bus from the city was due soon. He walked past the ticket window, its glass fogged with frost. The depot sat on the edge of town, surrounded by dark trees. A single street lamp buzzed overhead, bathing the benches in weak yellow light. He liked the quiet most days. It let him clear his head. Now, his chest tightened with a strange feeling. The night was slow so far. A few people waited near the main stop, bundled in coats. Greg nodded to a woman sipping coffee from a thermos. She waved back faintly. Normal stuff. Then, a sharp sound pierced the air. A baby's cry. Loud and frantic. It came from the far corner of the depot, near the last bus shelter. Greg turned toward it. The crying grew stronger, pulling him closer. There, under the dim glow of a dying bulb, stood a young woman. She looked about 19, her blonde hair tangled and wild. She wore a faded red sweater, sleeves stretched thin. In her arms she cradled a baby, wrapped in a tattered brown blanket. The infant's wails echoed across the empty lot. Greg stopped a few yards away. "Hey, you all right?" he called. His voice carried over the wind. The woman didn't respond. She shifted the baby, rocking it with quick, jerky motions. Her eyes flicked up, wide and scared. Greg felt a chill. He took a step forward. "I'm the guard here. Do you need anything?" She flinched, clutching the baby tighter. "No," she mumbled. Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. The baby squirmed, its cries softening into choked sobs. Greg watched her closely. She looked worn out. Her hands trembled. A streak of mud marked her jeans. Something wasn't adding up. Greg pulled his jacket tighter against the biting wind. The Willow Creek bus depot stretched out before him, a maze of concrete and steel under the faint moon. His shift had just begun, and the clock above the ticket booth flashed 11:52 p.m. He moved past the rows of benches, flashlight bouncing off rusted signs. Years on this job taught him to expect the unexpected. Tonight, that lesson felt closer than ever. The midnight bus from the city was minutes away. Greg's role tonight was crowd control. A big game had ended downtown, and fans would flood the depot soon. He checked his radio, clipped to his belt, and adjusted his cap. The supervisor had warned him earlier. A surge of rowdy passengers was coming. Greg braced himself. He thrived on order, not chaos. The depot stirred as the first wave arrived. Tires crunched gravel outside. Voices rose, loud and excited, spilling from the parking lot. Greg stepped toward the main shelter, where the young woman stood with the crying baby. She hadn't moved. Her red sweater looked thinner up close, frayed at the edges. The baby's wails cut through the growing noise. People poured in, men in team jerseys, kids with painted faces, women hauling bags. The air filled with laughter and shouts. Greg raised his voice. "Keep to the lines, folks. Bus is almost here." He guided a group toward the shelter, eyes flicking back to the woman. She shrank against the pole, hugging the baby like a shield. The crowd thickened. Bodies pressed close, breaths fogging in the cold. Greg waved an arm, directing stragglers. "This way, stay off the road." A teenage boy bumped him, apologizing with a grin. Greg nodded, but his focus stayed sharp. The woman, her name still a mystery, looked trapped, her face pale under the flickering light. Headlights swept the lot. The midnight bus roared in, engine rumbling. Greg shouted over the noise, "Let folks off first! Step back!" The doors hissed open. A handful of passengers stumbled out. Tired workers, a guy with a guitar case. Greg moved to help an older lady with a cane, steadying her arm. That's when he saw it. The young woman darted forward. She pushed through the exiting riders, bare elbows shoving past coats. The baby jolted in her grip, blanket slipping to reveal a tiny, flushed face. She vanished into the swarm boarding the bus. Greg's pulse quickened. She wasn't waiting for a ride. She was running. He wanted to follow. Instinct screamed at him something was wrong. But the crowd demanded his attention. People jostled, voices overlapping. He couldn't leave his post. Not yet. He grabbed his radio, thumb pressing the button hard. "This is Greg at Willow Creek. Got a young woman in a red sweater with a baby. She just bolted onto the midnight bus. Looked scared. Can someone check it out?" Static hissed back. "Copy, Greg," a voice answered. "Description noted. We'll scan the route. Stay where you are." Greg clipped the radio back, frustration simmering. The bus doors shut with a thud. Its tail lights glowed red as it pulled away, swallowed by the dark. The woman was gone. The shelter buzzed with leftover fans, their energy fading. Greg scanned the faces, none hers. His mind raced. She'd said no when he offered help, but her eyes told a different story. And that baby. Its cries weren't normal fussing. They were raw, urgent. He clenched his fists. Whatever she was hiding, it wasn't small. He guided the last stragglers to their spots, answering quick questions about schedules. The depot settled, but Greg didn't. The game crowd thinned as cabs rolled in. He checked the clock. 12. 5 a.m. The next bus wasn't due for half an hour. Time enough to act. He decided then. He'd search the depot. She might have doubled back, or left something behind. Greg moved through the thinning herd. "Excuse me, coming through." The air smelled of diesel and sweat. He swept his flashlight over the benches, the trash cans, the shadows. No red sweater, no baby. His jaw tightened. She had boarded that bus. Or so it seemed. But why run? And from what? A figure caught his eye. An older man in a stained coat leaned against a signpost, watching him. The guy's face was weathered, eyes sharp despite the late hour. He coughed, then spoke. "You looking for that girl with the kid?" His voice rasped like gravel. Greg stopped. "Yeah, you see her?" The man jerked his chin toward the bus lane. "She was here earlier, pacing, kept looking around like someone was after her." Greg stepped closer. "Anything else?" The man shrugged. "Heard her muttering. Sounded like she was praying. Then she got on that bus fast." Greg's stomach twisted. Prayer meant fear, big fear. He thanked the man and turned away, mind churning. The woman's flight, the baby's cries, the way she'd flinched. It painted a picture he didn't like. He needed more. The depot wasn't done with its secrets tonight. The game crowd had dwindled, leaving scattered voices and the crunch of gravel underfoot. His flashlight cut through the shadows as he swept the lot again. The young woman in the red sweater was gone, her baby's cries still ringing in his ears. He couldn't shake it. She'd run for a reason. The clock ticked to 12:10 a.m. Greg's shift stretched ahead, but his focus wasn't on routine anymore. He moved past the main shelter where the older man had spoken. The guy was still there, slouched against the signpost, picking at his coat. Greg approached him. "You sure she didn't say anything else?" he asked, keeping his tone steady. The man squinted up, breath sour with stale beer. "Didn't catch much. She was jumpy, kept checking her watch, said something about not enough time." He scratched his chin. "Then she bolted for that bus like her life depended on it." Greg nodded, filing it away. Time. That word stuck. What was she racing against? He thanked the man and turned toward the depot's edge. The next bus wasn't due for 25 minutes, enough window to dig deeper. He walked the perimeter, boots thudding on cracked pavement. The trees loomed darker here, branches swaying in the wind. He aimed his light at the ground. Tire marks, a candy wrapper, nothing useful. Frustration gnawed at him. She'd slipped away too fast. The air grew colder as he neared the last bus shelter, tucked by a chain-link fence. It was quieter here, the crowd's noise a distant hum. Greg paused, listening. A faint rustle came from the bushes beyond the fence. He swung his flashlight over. Leaves shivered, then stilled. Probably an animal. Still, his hand hovered near his radio. He circled the shelter. Its glass walls were smudged, one pane cracked. Inside, a lone bench sat empty except for a crumpled paper bag. Greg stepped closer. It wasn't trash. Something poked out. A corner of fabric, damp and grey. He crouched, heart picking up speed. It was a sock. Tiny. A baby's sock. Greg lifted it with 2 fingers. The wool was wet, stained with mud. His mind flashed to the woman's tattered blanket. Had she dropped this? He scanned the shelter again, light probing every corner. Under the bench, a glint caught his eye. He reached down and pulled out a cheap plastic watch, its strap broken. The face read 12:13 a.m. Time. There it was again. He straightened, gripping the sock and the watch. Clues, maybe. Proof she'd been here. He stuffed them into his jacket pocket and keyed his radio. Greg at Willow Creek found a baby's sock and a broken watch near the last shelter, might tie to that woman. Anyone spot that bus yet? The reply came quick. Bus is at Pine Road stop. No sign of her stepping off. We're tracking it. Greg exhaled, breath clouding in the chill. She was still out there, moving. He started back toward the main lot, determined to keep searching. The depot wasn't big, but it had blind spots. Alcoves, restrooms, the old storage shed. If she'd circled back, he'd find her. His boots hit the ground harder now, purpose driving him. Halfway across, a voice stopped him. "Hey, God!" It was a woman, middle-aged, leaning out of a beat-up sedan idling near the ticket booth. Her hair was pulled back tight, face lined with exhaustion. Greg jogged over. "Yeah?" She pointed toward the restrooms by the depot entrance. "Saw a girl in a red top over there earlier. Looked like she was crying. Thought you should know." Greg's chest tightened. "When?" he asked. "Maybe 20 minutes ago," she said, "before that bus rolled in. She had a kid with her, fussing loud." Greg thanked her fast and broke into a run. The restrooms were a squat brick building, paint peeling off the walls. 2 doors, men's and women's, both marked with faded signs. He couldn't barge into the women's side. Protocol held him back. He knocked hard on the door instead. "Hello? Depot security. Anyone in there?" No answer. The wind whistled past, carrying a faint whimper. Greg froze. It came from inside. He pushed the door open a crack, calling again. "I'm coming in, just checking." The hinges creaked as he stepped inside. The air smelled of bleach and damp tile. A row of stalls lined one wall, all quiet. Then he heard it clearer, a soft sob mixed with a baby's weak cry. His light swept the room. There, by the sink, stood the young woman. Her red sweater hung loose, soaked with sweat. The baby squirmed in her arms, blanket trailing on the floor. She spun to face him, eyes wide with terror. "Get away!" she hissed, voice raw. Greg stopped, hands up. "I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." The baby's cries sharpened, bouncing off the walls. Up close, he saw her better, thin, trembling, a bruise blooming on her wrist. She backed toward the wall, clutching the infant like a lifeline. Greg kept his distance. "You're safe here. What's your name?" She swallowed hard, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face. "Clara," she whispered. "Clara Hayes." Her gaze darted to the door, then back to him. "They're coming for me. I can't stop them." Greg's blood ran cold. "Who's coming?" he pressed. Clara shook her head, lips trembling. "I took her," she said, voice breaking. "She's not mine." The baby wailed louder, tiny hands flailing. Greg stared, pieces clicking into place. The sock, the watch, her panic. This wasn't just a runaway. It was something bigger, something dangerous. Outside, tires screeched faintly. Clara flinched, shrinking back. Greg turned toward the sound, then back to her. "Stay here," he said firmly. "I'll figure this out." He grabbed his radio, ready to call it in. Whatever Clara was running from, it was closing in fast. Greg stood in the damp restroom of Willow Creek Bus Depot, the baby's cries bouncing off the tiles. Clara Hayes pressed herself against the wall, her red sweater clinging to her trembling frame. Her words, "I took her, she's not mine," hung heavy in the air. Outside, the screech of tires grew louder, a harsh edge cutting through the night. Greg's grip tightened on his radio. Time was slipping away. He raised the device to his mouth, keeping his eyes on Clara. "This is Greg at Willow Creek. I've got a young woman and a baby in the women's restroom by the entrance. She's scared, says someone's after her. Send help quick." The dispatcher's voice crackled back. "Units dispatched. ETA 5 minutes. Stay put." Greg lowered the radio, his pulse hammering. 5 minutes felt too long. Clara's breath hitched. She slid down the wall, knees buckling, the baby clutched to her chest. The infant's wails softened into gasps, its tiny face flushed red. Greg knelt a few feet away, voice low. "Clara, listen. Help's coming. Tell me who's after you. I can protect you." Her eyes darted to the door, wild with dread. "You don't get it," she choked out. "They'll kill us both." Greg frowned, leaning closer. "Who's they?" Clara shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "The people I worked for. I was their driver. I saw too much." Her voice cracked, words tumbling fast. "This baby, they were going to sell her. I couldn't let them." Greg's stomach turned. Selling a child? The thought hit hard, sharp and ugly. He glanced at the sink. The blanket lay crumpled there, streaked with grime. A small tag dangled from it. A hospital logo, faded but clear. "Where'd you get her?" he asked. Clara swallowed. "A clinic. Private one, out past the highway. They had her locked up. I broke in, took her and ran." Her hands shook as she adjusted the baby's weight. Greg processed it fast. A clinic, a theft, a chase. This wasn't some family mess, it was a crime unraveling in front of him. He stood, radio buzzing faintly at his hip. "Okay, Clara, we'll sort this, just stay calm." She nodded faintly, but her gaze snapped to the door again. Footsteps echoed outside. Quick, heavy, more than one set. Greg spun toward the sound, hand hovering near his flashlight. The door burst open. 2 figures stormed in, men in dark jackets, faces hard and unreadable. One was broad, with a shaved head and a scar across his jaw. The other was leaner, eyes narrow, a phone pressed to his ear. "She's here," the lean one barked into the device. "Grab her." Clara screamed, scrambling back. The baby's cries erupted again, shrill and piercing. Greg stepped forward, blocking their path. "Back off," he warned, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding his veins. "Police are on their way." The broad man sneered, cracking his knuckles. "You're in over your head, guard. Move." Greg didn't budge. "Not happening." The lean man dropped his phone into a pocket and lunged for Clara. Greg swung his flashlight, catching the guy's arm. The impact jolted up his wrist, but the man stumbled, cursing. The broad one charged next, shoving Greg hard. He hit the wall, air rushing out of his lungs. Pain flared in his shoulder. Clara bolted for a stool, slamming the door shut. The lock clicked. The broad man pounded on it, wood rattling. "Open it, or we break it down," he shouted. Greg pushed off the wall, grabbing the guy's jacket and yanking him back. They grappled, boots slipping on wet tile. The lean man circled, aiming for the stall again. Sirens wailed outside, close now. Red and blue lights flashed through the restroom's small window. The men froze, exchanging a quick look. "Cops," the lean one muttered. The broad man shoved Greg off, chest heaving. "We're not done," he snarled, then bolted for the door. The lean one followed, their footsteps fading fast. Greg caught his breath, wiping sweat from his brow. He banged on the stool. "Clara, it's me. They're gone. Come out." The lock clicked again, and she emerged, shaking, the baby still in her arms. Her face was streaked with tears, but she stood taller now. "They'll come back," she whispered. "They always do." Police flooded the room seconds later, 3 officers, vests gleaming under the harsh lights. The lead one, a woman with short hair and a calm stare, stepped forward. "Greg Ward?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah, that's me." She gestured to Clara. "What's the situation?" Greg explained quickly, Clara's story, the baby, the men who'd stormed in. The officer listened, jotting notes. Another cop, a stocky guy with a moustache, approached Clara. "Miss, I'm Officer Diaz. That's Officer Reese with me. We need to know more." He nodded to a man in plain clothes entering behind them, a wiry guy with a clipboard. "This is Tom Vance, says he's your boss." Clara's eyes widened, panic flaring. "No!" she gasped, backing up. "He's one of them!" Greg turned. Vance smiled thinly, hands in his pockets. "Clara's confused," he said smoothly. "She works for my transport company. Took the kid from a client. I'm just here to clear this up." His voice was too polished, too easy. Greg's guts screamed warning. Clara gripped his arm. "He's lying," she hissed. "He runs it all." Officer Reese frowned, glancing between them. "All right, everyone, slow down. We'll take statements outside. Vance, you too." She waved a hand. "Let's move. This room's a mess." Vance's smile didn't waver, but his eyes flicked to the baby. Greg caught it, a glint of something cold. He stayed close to Clara as they filed out. The night air hit them sharp and clean. Squad cars lined the lot, lights pulsing. Clara shivered, the baby quiet now, exhausted. Greg handed the sock and watch to Diaz. "Found these earlier, might mean something." Diaz bagged them, nodding. "Good call. We'll look into it." Vance lingered near a cruiser, talking low to another officer. Clara whispered to Greg, "He'll twist it. He always does." Greg met her gaze. "Not this time. I've got your back." The stakes were clear now. Whatever Clara had uncovered, it was worth killing for. And it wasn't over yet. Greg stood outside the Willow Creek bus depot restroom, the cold night air biting his skin. Police lights flashed across the lot, painting Clara Hayes' pale face in sharp reds and blues. She clung to the baby, her red sweater damp with sweat. Officers Reese and Diaz flanked them, notebooks out, while Tom Vance lingered by a squad car, his wiry frame tense under the depot's glare. Greg kept his eyes on him. That smooth lie. Clara's confused. Didn't sit right. Reese turned to Clara, her voice firm but kind. "We need the full story, Miss Hayes. Start from the beginning." Clara shifted the baby, its cries now faint whimpers. She glanced at Greg, then spoke. "I drove for Tom's company. Vance Transport, hauling cargo mostly. 3 months ago things changed." Her words came slow, heavy with fear. Greg listened, arms crossed. The crowd from the game had vanished, leaving the depot eerily still. Clara continued. "They started moving people, kids sometimes, locked in vans. I asked questions once. Tom said I'd regret it." She swallowed hard. "Last week, I saw the baby at the clinic, tiny, hooked to machines. They were prepping her to go somewhere, some buyer." Diaz scribbled fast, his moustache twitching. "Where's this clinic?" Clara's voice dropped. "Old warehouse off Route 17, hidden behind a scrapyard. They called it the ward. I heard Tom on the phone. $50,000 for her. Said she was clean." Greg's fists clenched. A baby sold like merchandise. It turned his stomach. Reese nodded, jotting it down. "And tonight?" Clara's eyes welled up. "I couldn't take it anymore. I waited till the guards switched shifts. Snuck in, cut the power to the locks. Grabbed her and drove. Dumped the van a mile out, then walked here." She hugged the baby tighter. "They've been trailing me since." Greg glanced at Vance. The man's smile was gone, replaced by a tight jaw. He stepped forward, voice oily. "Officers, she's delusional. Clara's been off lately, stealing equipment, making up stories. That baby's from a client who hired us to move her safely. I came to fix this mess." His hands spread wide, too calm. Clara shook her head fiercely. "He's lying. Check the clinic. You'll find records, names, dates, everything." Vance's eyes narrowed, but he kept his tone even. "There's no clinic. She's unstable. Look at her." Greg caught the flicker in Vance's stance. Nerves, not confidence. He stepped closer to Reese. "She's got details, dates, places. That's not made up." Diaz looked up from his notes. "We'll run Vance's company, see what shakes out." He waved to another officer. "Take him to the car. We're holding everyone till this clears." Vance's face darkened. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "I'm cooperating." The officer grabbed his arm, guiding him away. Vance shot Greg a glare, sharp, promising trouble. Greg ignored it, turning to Clara. "You're doing good. Keep talking." She nodded, shaky but resolute. "They've got a network. Drivers, buyers, fake papers. The baby, she's not the first. I saw files, dozens of kids." Her voice broke. "I couldn't save the others." The weight of it hit Greg hard. A whole operation right under the town's nose. Reese radioed in. Get a team to Route 17 warehouse, behind the scrapyard. Possible trafficking site. Static buzzed, then a reply. On it, backups rolling. She turned to Greg. You sticking around? He nodded. Yeah, I'm in this now. Clara's story wasn't just hers anymore. It was his fight too. The baby stirred, a weak cry escaping. Greg glanced at the blanket, the hospital tag catching the light. He pulled the sock and watch from his pocket, handing them to Diaz again. Found these by the shelter, might match her timeline. Diaz bagged them, brow furrowing. Could be evidence. We'll test it. Vance's voice cut through from the cruiser. You're wasting time. She's a thief, not a hero. Greg spun, anger flaring. Then why'd your guys storm in here? Looked desperate to me. Vance leaned forward, cuffs glinting. They're employees, not thugs. Misunderstanding. His tone was ice, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Reese stepped between them. Enough. We'll sort it at the station. She gestured to Clara. We need to get her and the kid somewhere safe. Child Services is en route. Clara tensed. No, don't take her. They'll find her. Greg put a hand on her shoulder. They won't. We'll make sure. A new sound broke the tension. Engines roaring closer. Two black SUVs peeled into the lot, tires kicking up dust. Greg's heart sank. More of Vance's crew? The doors flew open and 4 figures jumped out, masked, moving fast. Reese shouted, Hands up! Her gun snapped up, Diaz following suit. The air crackled with danger. Clara gasped, ducking behind Greg. The baby wailed again, sharp and terrified. One masked man yelled, Give us the girl! Greg grabbed Clara's arm, pulling her toward the restroom doorway. Stay low, he hissed. Shots rang out, loud, chaotic. Bullets pinged off the brick wall, sparks flying. Reese fired back, barking orders. Cover the civvies! Diaz tackled one attacker, wrestling him down. Greg shielded Clara, shoving her inside. The baby's cries pierced the gunfire. He slammed the door, barricading it with his weight. They're here for you, he said, breathless. What else do you know? Clara's eyes were wide, tears streaming. The buyer's local, big name. That's why they're desperate. Greg pressed harder against the door as it shook. Someone was ramming it. Who? He demanded. She choked out. Councilman Brandt. He's on the payroll. The name hit Greg like a brick. Brandt, pillar of Willow Creek, all smiles and speeches. The door bucked again. Wood splintered. Greg's mind raced. A councilman tied to trafficking. It explained the firepower outside. This wasn't just about one baby, it was a machine, and Clara had jammed the gears. Sirens screamed, louder, more backup closing in. The fight wasn't over, but the truth was clawing its way out. Greg braced against the restroom door at Willow Creek bus depot, the wood groaning under heavy blows. Clara Hayes crouched behind him, the baby's cries rising over the chaos outside. Gunfire popped in the lot, sharp bursts followed by shouts. Councilman Brandt's name still echoed in Greg's head, a jagged piece in this ugly puzzle. The door shook again, splintering at the hinges. Time was running out. Hold on, Greg grunted, shoving his shoulder harder into the frame. Clara clutched the baby, her red sweater streaked with dust. They'll kill us, she whispered, voice trembling. Greg's jaw tightened. Not if I can help it. Through the cracked window he saw flashes, cops returning fire, shadows darting between cars. Backup was close, but not close enough. The door buckled with a loud crack. Greg stumbled forward as it gave way. A masked figure burst in, all muscle and fury, swinging a fist. Greg ducked, grabbing the man's arm and twisting it back. Pain shot through his knuckles as he drove a punch into the guy's ribs. The attacker grunted, staggering. Clara scrambled back, shielding the baby with her body. Another figure loomed in the doorway, taller, a gun in hand. Drop her, he barked at Clara. Greg lunged, tackling him low. They hit the tile hard, the gun skittering across the floor. Greg's ears rang as he wrestled the man down, pinning his wrists. Sweat stung his eyes. The baby's wails mixed with Clara's panicked gasps. Greg, she yelled. He glanced up. The first man was back on his feet, lunging for Clara. She swung the blanket, tangling his legs. He tripped, crashing into the sink. Porcelain cracked under his weight. Greg slammed the second man's head against the floor, dazing him, then scrambled to his feet. "Get behind me!" he shouted. Clara obeyed, dragging the baby into a corner. Sirens flooded the lot now, deafening. Tires squealed as more squad cars roared in. The first attacker cursed, clutching his side, and bolted out. The second writhed under Greg's grip, spitting blood. "You're dead," he rasped. Greg pressed harder. Not yet. Boots pounded outside. Cops storming the scene. Relief hit him, but it was short-lived. Officer Reese charged in, gun raised. "Clear!" she yelled. Diaz followed, cuffing the man Greg held. "Good work," Diaz said, hauling the guy up. Greg stood, chest heaving, and turned to Clara. She rocked the baby, tears cutting tracks through the grime on her face. "It's over," he told her. She shook her head. "Not with Brandt out there." Reese holstered her weapon, scanning the room. "Where's Vance?" Greg pointed outside. "Cruiser, he's tied to this." Diaz radioed it in. "Suspect Vance in custody. Check him for ties to Brandt. Councilman James Brandt." Static crackled, then a reply. "Copy. Teams at the warehouse now. Found papers, kids' names, it's real." Greg's gut twisted. Clara was right. Dozens of lives at stake. More officers poured into the lot, securing the masked men. Greg stepped outside with Clara, the cold air a jolt after the fight. Vance sat in a car, head down, silent now. Two attackers were cuffed on the ground, masks off. Hard faces, one with a busted lip. A third dangled from a cop's grip near the SUVs. The fourth had vanished into the night. Reese approached Clara, gentle now. "We need everything you've got on Brandt." Clara nodded, steadying her voice. "He met Tom at the clinic twice, paid cash. I drove him once. Didn't know what it was till later." She shifted the baby, its cries fading to whimpers. "He's got a house by the lake, keeps files there. I heard him say it." Diaz scribbled fast. "Lake house. We'll hit it." He glanced at Greg. "You're a civilian, but you're deep in this. What's your take?" Greg wiped blood from his hand. "She's telling the truth. Those guys weren't random. Brandt's covering tracks. Big ones." Reese agreed. "We'll move on him tonight, Clara. You're with us." A van rolled up. Child services, a woman in a blue coat stepping out. She reached for the baby. Clara hesitated, then handed her over, voice breaking. "Keep her safe." The woman nodded. "We will. She's got a chance now." Greg watched the exchange, a knot loosening in his chest. One life saved, at least. The lot buzzed as cops coordinated. A team peeled off for Brandt's lake house, radios alive with updates. "Warehouse raids got evidence, photos, payments. Brandt's name's on it," one officer reported. Greg stayed by Clara as she gave her statement, detailing routes, dates, faces. Her words built a web. Vance Transport, the clinic, Brandt's cash. It was crumbling fast. Reese turned to Greg. "You're a hero here, Ward. Stick around for the station later." He nodded. "Yeah, I'll be there." She clapped his shoulder, then joined Diaz to wrap the scene. Clara sat on a bench, staring at her hands. Greg sat beside her. "You did it," he said. She looked up, eyes red. "We did it. I'd be gone without you." He pulled the broken watch from his pocket, turning it over. "Found this earlier. Yours?" Clara took it, a faint smile breaking through. "Yeah, lost it running. Kept checking the time. Thought I wouldn't make it." Greg handed her the sock, too. "This, too. Proof you fought." She clutched them, a lifeline to her escape. The night stretched on, exhaustion settling in. Cops cleared the lot, leaving Greg and Clara under the depot's faint lights. A new car arrived, a plain sedan. A woman stepped out, tired but relieved. "I'm Jenna Hayes," she said, "Clara's sister. Heard from the police." Clara stood, falling into her arms. "Jenna," she sobbed. "I'm sorry." Jenna hugged her tight. "You're alive. That's enough." She looked at Greg. "Thank you. She told me what you did." He waved it off. "Just my job." But it wasn't, not really. He'd crossed lines, risked everything. Jenna offered her number. "If you need us," she said. Greg typed it into his phone, nodding. As they left with an escort, Greg's radio buzzed. "Ward, you there?" It was his supervisor, Hank. "Yeah," Greg replied. Hank's voice was gruff. "Heard the mess. You're off protocol, but I'll let it slide. Finish your shift." Greg exhaled. "Thanks, Hank." The call ended and he checked the clock. 2 hours a.m.m. Hours left. He walked the depot again, the quiet returning, the fight replayed in his mind. Clara's courage, Vance's lies, Brant's fall. He'd started the night expecting boredom. Instead, he'd torn open a wound in Willow Creek, one that had bled for weeks. Brant was cornered, Vance done. Justice was rolling. The last bus pulled in, headlights soft in the dark. Greg waved to the driver, then resumed his rounds. The air felt lighter now, the depot's secrets laid bare. He didn't know what tomorrow's shift would bring, but tonight he'd made a dent. A big one, and that was enough. Greg leaned against a bench at Willow Creek bus depot, the night settling into a fragile calm. The police cars had rolled out, taking Clara Hayes, her sister Jenna, and the cuffed remnants of Vance's crew. The baby was safe with child services, her cries a fading echo in Greg's mind. The clock blinked 2:15 a.m., the depot's lights buzzing softly overhead. His shift dragged on, but the weight of the night pressed heavy. He watched the last bus pull away, its engine a low growl against the silence. Clara's words, Councilman Brant, the clinic, the trafficking ring, still churned in his head. She'd exposed a monster, and he'd helped rip it open. The lot stretched empty now, save for a lone janitor sweeping near the ticket booth. Greg's hands ached from the fight, a dull bruise forming on his knuckles. His radio crackled again. "Greg, update." Hank's voice cut through, gruff but steady. Greg pressed the button. "All clear here. Cops got Vance and his guys. Clara's safe. Brant's next." Hank grunted. "Heard they raided his lake house. Found cash, files, whole damn operation. You're lucky I don't dock you for running off post." Greg managed a tired laugh. "Appreciate the mercy, Hank." The line went quiet. He clipped the radio back, staring at the spot where Clara had sat. Her broken watch and the baby's sock were with the cops now, small tokens of a night that had spiraled beyond his control. He'd handed Jenna's number to his phone's contacts, a lifeline he might never use. Footsteps crunched behind him. He turned, hand tensing near his flashlight. It was the janitor, an older guy named Roy, pushing a broom. "Heard the commotion," Roy said, pausing. "You all right?" Greg nodded. "Yeah, rough one." Roy tilted his head toward the restroom. "Saw that girl earlier before the mess. She was pacing outside, talking to herself. Looked haunted." Greg's chest tightened. "What did she say?" Roy shrugged. "Couldn't make it out. Something about no more. Kept rubbing her arms like she was cold." He swept a pile of dirt aside. Didn't think much till the shooting started. Greg thanked him, filing it away. Clara's fear had been loud even then, pushing her to the edge, then over it. He walked toward the restroom, the door still ajar from the fight. Inside, the sink lay cracked, tiles scuffed from boots. He replayed it. The masked men, the gunfire, Clara's desperate stand. She'd said Brant was local, a big name. The news would hit hard tomorrow. Willow Creek's golden councilman, unmasked as a trafficker. Greg wondered how deep it went, how many kids they'd missed. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Jenna. Clara's at the station, giving more. They found the baby's mum. Alive, locked in that warehouse. Thanks again." Greg stared at the screen, relief washing through him. "The mum alive?" That changed things. He typed back, "Good to hear. Tell Clara she's tough. Stay safe." He hit send, pocketing the phone. The depot felt different now. Less like a job, more like a battleground he'd survived. He circled back to the main shelter, checking the benches one last time. A crumpled flyer fluttered on the ground. Some council event, Brant's face beaming from the paper. Greg kicked it aside, jaw tight. That smile wouldn't last. Roy shuffled over, broom in hand. "Shift's half done, huh?" Greg glanced at the clock. 2:40 a.m. "Yeah, feels longer," Roy chuckled. "Nights like this always do. You're a good one, Ward. Most would have walked away. Greg shrugged. Couldn't. Not my style. Roy nodded, moving off to finish his rounds. Greg resumed his patrol, boots steady on the concrete. The wind picked up, rattling the fence. He thought of Clara, her escape, her fight. Then the baby's mum, trapped but found. The warehouse raid was still unfolding, cops pulling threads, uncovering names. Brandt's Lakehouse bust would seal it. Greg hadn't just guarded a depot tonight, he'd sparked a reckoning. A distant rumble signaled the next bus. 3:00 a.m., right on time. He waved it in, guiding a few weary passengers off. One, a guy in a hoodie, asked, "Heard shouts earlier. What happened?" Greg kept it short. "Trouble. It's handled." The guy nodded, shuffling away. Greg watched the bus roll out, tail lights shrinking into the dark. He sat on a bench, letting the quiet sink in. His shift had started with routine, checked the gates, watched the lot. Now it ended with a busted ring and a kid breathing free. He rubbed his sore shoulder, replaying Clara's hug with her sister, Jenna's gratitude. Small wins in a jagged night. Hank's voice broke through again. "Ward, wrap it soon. You've earned a breather." Greg grinned faintly. "Will do." He stood, stretching, and headed for the guard shack. Dawn was hours off, but the sky hinted grey at the edges. He clocked out at 4 a.m., the depot silent behind him. Outside, he climbed into his truck, engine rumbling to life. The road home stretched ahead, empty and calm. He drove slow, windows down, the cold air clearing his head. Tonight had been a storm. Clara's panic, Vance's lies, Brandt's fall. He'd stepped into it blind and come out with answers. The depot faded in his mirror, a speck against the trees. Greg didn't know what the next shift would hold. Maybe peace, maybe more fights. That was the gig. Watching the midnight hours, catching what slipped through. Tonight he'd caught plenty. He turned up the radio, a soft tune filling the cab, and let the road take him home.